In our study of the lower limb muscles, there are 9 compartments or groups of muscles from the hip through the leg that we are studying. And in this presentation, we're going to look at 3 of the muscles in the medial thigh compartment. So here are the compartments in this general area. The largest of these 4 that are illustrated here, the largest of the 4 is the anterior thigh. Notice there are 2 hip compartments that show up above, and then the medial compartment of the thigh. This is the one that we will be focusing on in this presentation. There are 3 muscles in this compartment that we'll want you to learn. Here is a medial view of that same area. You can see that large anterior compartment to the right. But again, remember, we're looking from a medial view, not the anterior view we were just looking at a moment ago. So you can also see the posterior compartment of muscles. In this medial compartment, there are 3 muscles that we're going to learn: the Gracilis, the Adductor Magnus, that is somewhat deep and yet we can still see it, and then a muscle called Adductor Longus. So 2 adductors. The adductor family also includes a 3rd, but it's a muscle that's very hard to see, and so we're going to ignore it in this presentation. So here we want to first see the compartment and then be able to locate these 3 muscles. In most pictures, the Gracilis and the Adductor Longus are easy to see. The Adductor Magnus, especially from the front, is a little more difficult. Here is a picture, that same picture, but with the sartorius muscle removed. So it's a little easier to see that Adductor Magnus and see that it is posterior to the Adductor Longus and deep to that Gracilis muscle. So let's look at these one at a time. The Gracilis muscle is the superficial muscle of this medial thigh compartment. If you've done a dissection, you've probably seen the sartorius and the Gracilis. They are the superficial muscles of the anterior and the medial compartment. And so Gracilis is fairly easy to identify. You can see it in the other images on this slide, which may help you to just see it from different aspects so you can identify it. But whenever you're looking at a whole thigh, the medial-most muscle is always the Gracilis muscle. Just anterior to that, and usually very visible, sort of between the sartorius and the Gracilis, is the Adductor Longus. It's long and yet visible. So shows there sort of in the groin area. It attaches from the coxal area, from up in the pubis all the way down onto the femur. And then the 3rd muscle, that one that's a little more difficult, is the Adductor Magnus. In a picture with sartorius removed, you see more of it. Here you see the tiny little bit of it. Here's that picture with the sartorius removed so that you can see it more completely. And it's the largest. That Magnus term has that sense of being larger. If you look at it, you can see it in the posterior pictures here, but here's a posterior picture as well. And you can see it laying there under the Gracilis muscle. So the 3 muscles in the medial compartment of the thigh are ones that are not too difficult to identify. They all function together doing adductor kinds of activities, and they're in this compartment.